This is a fairly interesting article because I'm not going to go over the hard article, basically just the headline and a couple lines, because that's really all you really need to know. But what my contention always has been that the European crisis has always been planned, more or less, because what they need to have as an outcome to the crisis is centralized banking, a centralized union. And either people work together or they don't survive or they suffer more hardships. So the title on this article is, I think it's from the Brussels-based think tank. I'll post a link. It's a blog or something like that. Bruegel, Improving Economic Policy. Banking union or financial repression? Europe has not chosen yet. So just as I was alluding to all along, I know the game. I know the game. It cracks me up how people comment on this. It's so clear that what the game is. And just read Foreign Affairs from Council on Foreign Relations. It tells you that the European Union concept is not going away. Maybe one or two nations might not be part of it, but all the nations are not going back to their individual currencies. I used to hear that garbage from BC on AJ's show. I don't even want to mention the names anymore. These guys are a bunch of clowns, all of them. Anyway, it says a need for a European banking union as a necessary complement to Eurozone fiscal union. In other words, centralized bank, or else it's not going to survive. So that Europe's single financial market and monetary union cannot survive long term without a banking union. So what I think this is going to be is very bearish for the metals. So you think they pulled back pretty hard already? I got a feeling some of this stuff is coming up very soon. There's going to be more bank downgrades in April in Europe. And since we saw this flight to safety out of Spain and Italy going to Finland, Germany, France, Belgium, going to their banks, there's probably going to be more problems with the Portuguese banks, the Spanish banks, the Italian banks. And it's going to create a crisis, and we're going to see the metals go down. Now, I know silver bloggers say, buy more shiny silver coins. Go right ahead. Do whatever you want. Well, if you don't have any, get some. That's my advice too. If you don't have any, get some. Probably gonna have another buying opportunity. But if you got a bunch of coins already, if you want to keep buying them, do whatever you want. I'm not. I think that's nuts. Anyway, as far as I did state that some of the people know exactly what the price movements of silver are to me, and that was like ES, I'm not going to mention the name, ES initials, and DM, who both sold at the end of April at the high around $47. Maybe not all their holdings, but they sold. They knew when to sell. At least DM was not so irresponsible, saying it's going to run all the way up to 100. He wasn't saying that, he wasn't giving out that kind of garbage. But they don't tell you. They're not going to tell the world what's going on. The whole game is a whole card game. DM actually alludes to, it was actually a fact, about the option expiry, what was going on. He made money during those times, So people ought to pay a little more attention to different things. But, the information's right out there. It's very obvious. I always look at it this way. The middle class is their own worst enemy. They need to be led around by the nose. They need to have a medical quack with initials after their name tell them what's going on. They need to take pharmaceutical drugs. You can't tell them, they got to do whatever they got to do. As far as physical silver and coins and stuff getting too lopsided, there's one thing I was thinking that Mark Farber said back, and it wasn't about what he was doing. I think he's about 25% precious metals. That's, I'm more than that, But he said that many of his Jewish friends that are in business that are, very, and I would assume that his Jewish friends are high up in business, and I have a lot of respect for the Jewish businessman. He says a lot of them were like more than 50% in precious metals, like somewhere like close to 100%. Now, when they're saying precious metals, he's talking about this sector. That doesn't mean they just bought silver coins. Obviously, they might have silver, gold, platinum, palladium metals, and the mining stocks, and the refineries, and maybe the jewelry or something like that, or like these index funds that include various sectors of the industry. In other words, they're not just buying physical metal coins and that's it. But still, they're very lopsided on it, and the reason is because of the debt situation that's going on in the governments. I think it's a very smart thing, but those guys are going to sell at the right time. I don't think I think the majority of people are definitely not. And they're not going to sell to, like, the buyers aren't going to be Bill Gates, Carlos Slim, and Warren Buffett and George Soros. They're not going to buy something at the absolute high. There's going to be other people that are going to be in the market ready to buy something at the absolute high, because there's going to be a bunch of precious metals, silver, gold, snake oil salespeople telling them it can't go down, and that's going to be your middle class. But you can't tell them nothing, so that's the way I look at it. I want to point out some other angle on the economy, and this was also alluded to by many people in the silver blogging and gold blogging, whatever the hell they are, community. It was about during Rome. Rome actually devalued their coinage by replacing the silver content and the gold content in the coinage, and it caused an economic problems, because they had some kind of inflation with that due to that. This I found interesting off of Wikipedia. It sounds almost like the United States. If you read this line, at the time, this is like right before the wars with Dacia. At the time, Rome was suffering from economic difficulties largely brought on by extensive military campaigns throughout Europe. Well, we got U.S. has extensive military campaigns throughout the world, and also in part to a low gold content in Roman currency brought on by the Emperor Nero. And that's like we're suffering from devaluation of the dollar by bringing up the M2 money supply too much. Well, here's their solution, Rome, seeing that there's confirmed rumors of Dacian gold and other valuable trade resources in part that help to incite the conflict with Dacia. So through the conquest, basically as long as you win the war, the economy in your country goes up. And this was forecast even after World War II by some people. Since the United States won that particular war, America's underwent an economic boom in the 50s. Now, if America lost that war, there would have been a totally different outcome. That is the reality behind the situation, I know all these people are like, oh, we gotta have peace, Well, and a lot of times it's not like that. So, But I think that's interesting because what's coming up right now, there's probably going to be a war conflict situation here in the Middle East with Iran, right? Now, that really is a unknown outcome. You don't know 100% how that's going to play out because you got China and Russia and all this type of stuff. But as always, the country that wins the war actually, has its economy boosted significantly by using the resources from the other countries it conquers. Now, I also want to interject here because a little food for thought. Say for instance there is this conflict in the Middle East and maybe something happens even beyond that or whatever. If you got silver and gold and the United States loses a war, guess what? You're SOL. You're SOL. So I'd like to point out one little stupid thing to some people who just seem to not get it. You kind of live in the United States, right? You know, whether you like it or not, if you don't support the United States in 100% all the way, I mean, you can criticize whatever you want, but if you really try to bring down the United States, guess what happens? You're just cutting your own throat. Because, you know, if you don't like the elite and all this kind of garbage like that, I mean, I know there's these various problems, but if you really go against the United States all the way, guess what happened? You just cut your own throat. Silver and gold ain't going to save you because somebody else will take it from you. I'd like to interject that because sometimes, you know, I see some of these clowns on this internet, and boy, they're like, I don't know, they seem like they're totally against the United States, and I don't like that, to tell you the truth, at all. And, you know, despite the fact that the U.S. is actually an empire, it is actually a global reaching empire, there isn't one country in the world that wouldn't do the same thing. The human ambitions are like that everywhere throughout the world. So, you know, use a little common sense and support where you're at, you know.